happy that you survived your most recent sleep cycle.
Man, the internet really loves to hate Starfield. The game did get really good reviews, some great reviews even, I mean just look at these scores. But we've also seen countless videos and articles discussing how the game is outdated, criticizing its loading screens, procedural generation, the game engine, and the quote-unquote boring exploration. And to some extent, I agree that the game does feel like it could have been released in, say, the early 2010s, but I also feel like there is a lot to like in Starfield, so I'm here to give it some love, because I really enjoyed the game. I will, however, admit that Starfield may not be the RPG for everyone. I think it all comes down to the type of gamer you are. I will discuss what I mean by that a little further down the line. So then, why should you play Starfield in 2024? Well, there have been loads of patches, so the game is less buggy, it runs a lot better, and is just overall a better experience now than it was at launch. Bethesda very recently also dropped a major update. Looking at the patch notes, you can see a whole slew of fixes and improvements. The game even looks a bit better due to the improved lighting. It definitely feels like a more refined product in comparison to the launch version. Also, last year, especially towards the end, was absolutely packed with huge game releases. We had so many bangers and so little time to play all the games we wanted to. This year will definitely also have a few big releases, like always of course, but for now I don't think it will be as packed as 2023 was. I really think releasing in 2023 didn't exactly work in this game's favor. And then there was also that other big RPG title that was released just a month prior to Starfield. Anyway, it's easy to see why some people decided to not give Starfield a fair chance and would rather have spent their time on other big releases. Now that our gaming schedules, depending of course on the types of games you like to play, are a bit less crowded, you might find Starfield a game to be worthy of your time. So 2024 might actually be a better year for this game. Now, before I really get into the meat of this video, there are a couple of things you should know. For one, I consider myself to be a bit of an RPG simpleton. What do I mean by that? Well, I'm the type of gamer that really likes these immersive first or third-person RPGs with stunning visuals that studios like Bethesda or CD Projekt Red make. Games like Skyrim, The Witcher 3, Fallout, and Cyberpunk are right up my alley. Being in first or third person, they really suck me in, and I really get a sense that I am a part of that world. These games mostly are also not too complex. Sure, there are skill trees and there's loot and weapons, armor and items with all kinds of stats, but generally I feel like they don't drown you in options and go super deep with, say, the skill trees. You don't need to min-max, grind, or understand all the systems to have a good time. These RPGs are forgiving and fairly accessible, and the learning curve of these games isn't too steep. It's quite hard to screw up your characters by picking the quote-unquote wrong skills for your specific class, for example. That's a big reason why I love these games. If you are a similar type of gamer, you might also really enjoy Starfield. Also, I might be a bit biased here since I am a Bethesda fan, so keep that in mind.
Group hug now or at the end of the shift?
One of these days, Hella, I am going to leave you behind.
Promises, promises.
Another thing to keep in mind is that this is not a full review of the game. I will mostly be talking about the things that I enjoyed. I won't be going into detail about all of this game's mechanics. Anyway, let me give you a quick rundown of the story and the things I liked. In Starfield, you are a miner who gets tangled up in a quest to find alien artifacts. During a mining operation, you come into contact with one of these artifacts and experience an unexplainable vision. Soon after that, you join Constellation, a group dedicated to finding these artifacts and the answers to that strange vision.
Welcome to Constellation. We have a lot to talk about.
So you join their ranks and set off on a quest to explore the galaxy in search of these artifacts. The story didn't exactly strike me as something extraordinary, but I think it really complements the gameplay. Since you join what is essentially an explorer's guild, I think it really works and it doesn't feel out of place when you veer off the main path. It makes sense to go exploring distant planets in search for these artifacts or any clues on where to obtain them. Because in Starfield there are countless planets to explore. These procedurally generated planets were also a big part of Bethesda's marketing campaign. More on that later. Being a sucker for Bethesda games, Starfield still has that classic Bethesda-charm. It doesn't take itself too seriously and can be very goofy and at times funny.
Hi. Please disregard. I attempted an informal greeting, but I am dissatisfied with the results.
Another big part of that Bethesda-charm is never really knowing what to expect when you're exploring. You will often stumble upon interesting side quests. Sometimes you'll overhear a conversation and you'll go talk to that NPC, and then you'll fall into this rabbit hole of related side quests.
If you found the construction crew's missing man, we'd all owe you.
Or maybe you'll find a note that leads you on some kind of treasure hunt that eventually nets you a cool new ship or set of armor. Bethesda, in my opinion, also mostly does a good job in presenting an intriguing world with different factions and history that you want to learn more about. All in all, the handwritten content in this game is good. I didn't spend a lot of time running around planets doing the procedurally generated stuff. No, I was mostly doing the story and side quests and factions. Those are good times. Now, the RPG-simpleton in me also loves the visuals in this game. Bethesda did a very good job with this in Starfield. One of the things that the game does right is the intricate detail in the materials. So there's all these computer terminals with individual switches that make you feel like you can reach out and touch them. The weapons and armor are also well crafted. Take a look. The environments are a bit sterile at times, yes, which is of course not surprising considering you spend a lot of time inside space stations and ships, but they make sense within the world they have created. I think this art style they call NASA punk works really well. It feels strangely grounded in reality while simultaneously being indistinguishably sci-fi. Starfield is also a very competent shooter. The weapons mostly feel quite powerful. You get the sense that they have kick, especially the ballistics weapons. Animations are on point and the sound effects are also meaty. It is generally satisfying to shoot away at enemies. Landing headshots while you're jumping and boosting in midair feels good. The enemies can get a little spongy at times, especially the high-level mini-bosses and bosses, but overall I enjoyed the shooting in this game. Now, the space combat, however, isn't very spectacular. Once you get your ship up to snuff, it mostly consists of maneuvering your ship behind the enemy and essentially just hanging out there and shooting them in the rear until they go boom. Rinse and repeat with the next enemy. One of the reasons Starfield was heavily criticized was its loading screens, and yes, I can see why that might turn a lot of people off. However, I don't mind them that much. With a good SSD on PC, the loading screens are extremely short and don't get in the way of the gameplay too much. I don't know about the loading times on console, but on a decent PC they are very short. Another criticism is aimed towards the, according to some, excessive fast traveling in this game. Yes, you are pretty much fast traveling everywhere to all the systems, planets, moons, cities, and outposts in this game. You cannot manually fly there. But I don't think that's a bad thing per se. For one, I feel like the game really respects your time. Being able to fast travel everywhere quickens the pace of a lot of quests. You never feel like your time is being wasted with unnecessary travel. Here's me jumping from one system to another in seconds. Sure, it would have been cool to be able to fly everywhere in your ship, but honestly, would you still enjoy that after the third, fourth, or maybe fifth time? Now, imagine having to fly everywhere manually for dozens of minutes at a time. Would get boring pretty quickly if you ask me. While the option would have been nice for some diehard space sim fanatics out there, most people would just fast travel anyway. So I understand Bethesda's decision to cut that out. Now, about those countless planets you can explore. Apparently, there are 1,700 of them. I feel like they really serve as a distraction. It shouldn't be your main focus when playing the game. I also think Bethesda dropped the ball here a bit, because, to be fair, most of these planets are underdesigned and exploring them can be uneventful at times. The procedurally generated content also shouldn't have been such a big focus of their marketing campaign. I think a lot of people expected to play some sort of No Man's Sky. That's definitely not the case here. To wrap things up, I don't think Starfield is a masterpiece, but it is a solid game. It's an entertaining adventure. It's a good time. And to me, it feels kind of like gaming comfort food. Like, you know what you're eating isn't necessarily of the highest quality, but it's satisfying and just hits the spot in a certain way that makes you feel good. It's a game you can almost mindlessly play for hours and relax and just enjoy the sights and sounds. So, what about you? Have you given Starfield a chance? Do you want to play it? Have you played it? What did you think about it? Let me know down in the comments. I would love to hear from you. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed my content, you know what to do.